I have some seriously big news to share with you guys in this video. This is probably the biggest, like, content drop from the devs that I've ever covered. It's actually pretty cool. So they did something that I have been asking for basically since release, which is, so I came from a background of playing Overwatch. I played 1,000 hours plus. I played much more than 1,000 hours of Overwatch. And anyone who's played that game might be familiar with, they had developer updates. And it used to be Jeff Kaplan before he resigned, and he'd be like, hey guys, we're doing this, we're doing that, here's what's going on. And I was like, man, I wish Amazon Games would do that for New World, something like that, to tell us what's going on in the back end, what even happens on their side. And they basically did that today. Now, it was a very long video. It was 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I watched the entire thing, so you guys don't have to. And there were some gigantic, like, I don't know what to call it, like hidden gems in that video of them talking about things that are coming up, major changes coming to the game. And I wrote it all down, and I have put it together in the most, like, I don't know, I'm really just going to give to you guys the most important things, so you guys don't have to sit for 1 hour and 30 minutes to get them, okay? I literally took 2,000 words of notes from the video so that I could actually get the information fairly accurately to you guys. I'm going to start by touching on the two biggest things in the entire thing. Now, a lot of it's big, so to even say this is big is hardly true compared to everything else, but really this is probably at the very top of the pile, okay? But the other things are also big, so don't worry, there's a lot more than this. So in January, there's going to be another PTR. Now, they're going to extend the cycle a little bit, potentially, is what they said, so it's might be a little bit longer from PTR to actual live. But assuming that we get the patch in January, they're going to add a thing that you might have heard of from the data mines called mutators. Now, we finally have learned what mutators are exactly. And not only that, but it sounds like we're going to be getting a gear score increase beyond 600 because of mutators. So I'll unpack that second part after the first part. So mutators, they are related to the endgame dungeons like Genesis and Lazarus. Now, I don't know if they're also for the other dungeons. That would be interesting if suddenly level 25, 35 dungeons had a level 60 option mode or whatever, but I don't know if that's going to be true or not. But I can guarantee you, as for Genesis and Lazarus at least, that mutators will at least exist for those. Now, the way that mutators works is that every week there are different mutations to these dungeons, or what expeditions are called in this game. And it's basically like flavor of the week. So, you know, it might be, say, this week, some of these enemies are replaced with, you know, they have a different name at the end. They do fire damage now instead. Maybe some enemies leave those slime trails, so you have to be careful how you navigate. Maybe they'll have slightly different AI. Maybe they'll explode when they die, doing, like, you know, bomber damage or something from invasions. Like those types of changes every week. So flavor of the week kind of thing. And the reason you might want to do it, though, is because that's probably how you're going to get a gear score increase past 600. I don't know if crafters are going to get left out in the rain on this, or how crafters might be involved. I'm not entirely sure. Now, mutations, very interesting here, very fun sounding, actually. There's 10 ranks every week for the mutation. So it'll say reset on whatever day, say Monday. And then now for this week's mutations, you start off at rank 1. And in order to get to rank 2, they didn't really elaborate on this too much, but you have to get enough score in the rank 1 version. Now, I don't know if that's in a single attempt or a total score, like you run it multiple times until you've collected a total score at a certain point. I'm not sure. But either way, whether it's hitting a certain threshold in a singular event, run of the dungeon, or whether it's total, if you manage to get it, now when you go to do it, you can do rank 2 of the dungeon, which will make the enemies even harder and the rewards even better. And you can do that all the way till rank 10. And they're saying that you will need the gear score increase that these provide in order to beat the higher levels of this, because that's how difficult it's going to be. Now we'll see if that's true or not, assuming we don't find ways to just cheese all the enemies, as we sometimes do. But don't take my word for it. Here's Dave, the creative director at Amazon Game Studios, whichever one of their studios does New World, talking about the mutations and how you will get a gear score increase and you will need it in order to beat them because they're that difficult.
As Mike said, mutators are hard, like really hard. So this is going to be a time where we increase the gear score because you're going to need it to deal with the difficulty 10 mutators.
There you go. That was Dave talking about it. And they said later, they made it sound like it might only be weapons, though. So I'm not entirely sure. But that's probably the biggest thing out of all of that video was that, and that was near the end somewhere. That was an hour and 18 minutes into that video that I was like, what? I waited an hour, 18 minutes for this. Why isn't this at the front? So there were a lot of hidden gems like that in that video. That was the first one I wanted to touch on. So look forward to that. Dungeon mutations sound insanely fun and very challenging and something interesting to do. And we'll see how they iterate on that when they actually bring it to live. Before I move on to the next topic, though, there are a few more things I'd written down after I was looking at my notes again, which is that they might be testing in the PTR, like based on what they see with mutations, they are considering at a later date, so probably months later, maybe doing something like that for invasions. But that would, like the way they made it sound was like it's just on the table. It's not at all something that's guaranteed that they really want to do. They are just that they are open to it and thinking about it and considering like would this be a good or bad thing for the game. And then as for the expeditions, the way they made it sound is that there are keys to do the mutations. And they said once you have a key, you can use it in any expedition. So I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work exactly. But they said during the PTR, they're going to be testing like how many keys is too many, how many is too little, and trying to balance that in the PTR this January. So in January, be sure during the PTR and help them out, give feedback. And then the goal is to make it repeatable multiple times per day. So that is the thing on that. Also, while on the topic of feedback, some interesting things were that they said the forums are the best place for feedback. And then also they said the in-game feedback tool gives vital location data and other relevant information. So if something's happening where you think that it might have data logged that would be relevant, like you took 50,000 damage from a player or something, then immediately use the in-game feedback because it's logging data like that and like your location and things like that. And so that helps them a lot for certain technical exploits as opposed to just word of mouth explaining it. So try to use that the best way that you can. Now they talked about the new weapons. I'm going to get to that in just a second. The first thing I want to say though is that they said they're going to remove the distance cost from fast traveling. Like, so if I want to go all the way from First Light all the way to Mountain Home up in Shattered Mountain, that distance is not going to affect the fast travel cost anymore. So that's a pretty major change that I really wanted to talk about. So that combined with the aptitude chest dropping Azoth vials, we're going to get to a point once that patch goes through that Azoth vials really are worthless. I mean, not worthless, but compared to now. Like, Azoth will be very affordable. Getting wherever you want to get on the map will be much easier, much cheaper. It's just going to be a nice quality of life upgrade that most players are going to be very happy about. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. That's why I wanted to mention it a little bit earlier in this video, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very excited to hear that. Now, as for the weapons, I'm going to kind of touch two things here. Weapons and their roadmap. So they gave a roadmap, and they also mentioned about weapons in two different places in the video. I want to kind of tie them together. So the way they made it sound was that the blunderbuss may come as early as January, because they said, quote, pretty soon, end quote, when talking about when the blunderbuss is going to be coming to the game. So I'm thinking January, but at the latest February. And then they said that it's not like the musket. The musket's strategic, it's longer range, low rate of fire, that type of thing. The blunderbuss, though, to use their words, is more about excitement, explosions, chaotic, navigation, run and gun style. I literally quote, run and gun style were words that came out of one of the guys' mouths. I forget who. And it said it's short to mid range, might pair well with melee weapons, and they were not at the time allowed to say what stat or attribute that it scales off of. So that is hopefully January, but like I said, latest February. And then before we get to the next weapon, their roadmap was obviously winter event in December, which we already know of. In January, they're going to give mutators and maybe a blunderbuss, and I think those are the big things for January. And then February is actually going to be fully focused on cleaning up all the bugs, which they're always working on cleaning up bugs, but they're going to apparently they're going to dedicate pretty much an entire month to just cleaning up the mess and just trying to get all of the ends tied together and stuff, try to just get all the serious issues out of the way before moving forward. So a lot of people are going to be excited about that. And then they didn't say exactly, but they made it sound like in March we're gonna see the end to the Isabella story or something. Which, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm a crafter, gatherer, and moneymaker guy, and I only do the stuff for video, so I actually don't know the lore. I know a lot of people actually don't know the lore too. I know there's people out there who know the lore behind this game and are like dying on the inside to hear me not know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what I'm talking about when I say with the Isabella thing. I have no idea. I don't know the story at all. It's just how this game's story ends. I still have my Azoth staff tier 4 or something, okay? And I have a camp tier 2, okay? I've been too busy doing other stuff. But they're saying that the Isabella chapter is going to come to an end, and they made it sound like it was going to be in maybe March. So for you who do know what that means, then it's probably March, maybe April. And even for me who I don't know, I assume that means we're going to see the next things like maybe Captain Thorpe's finally unlocked in Murkgard, and maybe we'll see some of that stuff that they've have it mostly done, but time gated us anyway for not for no reason, but because they think time gating is healthy for the game, so they're going to unlock it then, unless they were actually adding more to it and they're going to unlock it. But either way, that's their like timeline plan, okay? But then we have the next weapon in the lineup, and they did not give any indication of when, is the greatsword. The only information that they gave, though, was that the greatsword is going to have stance switching, which gives you different modes when using the weapon. Now, the only game I'm familiar with that had this is a game that none of you have ever heard of called Fantasy Earth Zero, the greatest PvP game I've ever played in my life, and unfortunately you can only play in Japan nowadays. And there was a greatsword in that game. And if I remember right, I think it was the greatsword, had a stance switch, and it was either you're holding the greatsword like over your shoulder, like above your upper body, or you're holding it like behind you on your lower body, and it gives you different attacks that you could do based on that. So that's what I imagine when I think of that. Now, that one probably will come in March or April, would be my guess. I doubt it would come in February, but maybe it'll come in February. We'll see. So March, April, maybe May, probably March or April would be my best guess. Then the question was asked, what about daggers? And their response was that they have a lot of different weapons on the table to make after the greatsword. So basically, they haven't even started on whatever weapon comes after greatsword. And they said daggers are on the table near the front, but not quite there yet because lots of weapons are on the table. So daggers is probably not coming after greatsword. We're probably going to see greatsword, then something else, then daggers maybe, assuming that daggers actually make it through to the game. All right, so there's two more things there's a lot more things I'm going to touch on, but two other things. I'm going to put one than the other. Is that those timeless shards that you get from endgame zones and dungeons and all that? It's just one small little thing. Those timeless shards, which they confirmed let you control an attribute and one perk, you can sell them. You can sell the pattern. They made it sound like it's a one-time use, or maybe they did confirm it's a one-time use, but it's a one-time use, I'm pretty sure, and you can sell them. So if you are not a crafter and you're running endgame content and you get one of the timeless shards, you can look at it as you just found something that's worth money. So it's not like, oh, I have to go get crafting to do this. You can just get those, sell them for 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever they're going to go for on your server, and be happy about that. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about real fast is PvP. So, balancing, actually, specifically. So there's a few things to mention with balancing. One is that they were saying, the game launched, and there were just so many things that were so out of tune once you put it in the hands of thousands of players, and you really get to see, like, oh, man, that is way more OP than we thought it was. So they had to do some big changes that a lot of you were upset about, like Ice Gauntlet getting nerfed into the ground. They were late as hell to the Great Axe one, but they finally nerfed Great Axe pretty hard. And they're basically saying that as time goes on, they're going to hit a point where they're hoping to hit a point where these balance changes will be slower and not as obvious, So they're just making small little tuning passes instead of just big swaths of big changes, like all at once, in order to catch up to the balance. Instead, it'll already be a little bit more balanced, so they just make small adjustments to get the game where it needs to be. And then on that note, so fire mages and ice gauntlets are probably going to get buffed in January or sooner at some point. They're going to get buffed at some point a little bit. So the main thing they said was about the ice gauntlet was they're thinking about adding more CC to the ice gauntlet because they think they nerfed the CC of the ice gauntlet a little bit too much, is what they said. So, but these are all like uncertainty. So, I mean, they could always change their mind, especially based on feedback and things. But that's what they're looking at right now. And then for the fire staff, they're looking at buffing the fire mage side of the tree to make it more competitive with the other side of the tree, so that could bring about some kind of, change to how fire mages play. And they also said, it was really interesting insight. So you guys asked about feedback and like, do they even listen to us? And apparently, one of the combat designer guys, he said, this isn't an exact quote. This is like I don't know what you call it when it's like the quote slightly different, but it's the general idea of it. Is we sit in all-day meetings with the combat designers talking about all the feedback. We raise everything to the top that we think is a high priority. Then we look at feasibility. How long will it take? Will we have to completely rework the ability and so on? So like they do at some point have meetings that go like all day looking at the feedback that you guys give. And then they're being like, is this good? Is this bad? Is this worth? Is it not worth? Could we actually do this? Will it take months? Will it take hours? Will it take 100 hours? We have to redo the ability. We have to get the design team in here to make new animations. Like, we have to make new graphical effects. Like, what are we going to have to do? Is that feasible? So that's generally how they go about looking at balance changes and like combat changes. That's an insight into one of the things they do. And while we're on the topic of that, I want to add a few things that were also in the video. So the question was asked, when can I use a different one-handed weapon with a sword and shield? They said it's not even on the table yet. And I don't know, something along with coding. They hinted at that from a coding standpoint, the way the game's designed, it would be a nightmare to try to do. It would take forever. So, and then the other thing was that they were saying that they want to fill the play space with other weapons before going there. Another thing they said was when making weapons, they're also like looking at how can they fill a gap. Like the case with Void Gauntlet was, they were like, let's make a class that can debuff and can kind of do something about healing. So it's kind of filling a gap in the game. But also they would like to introduce brand new ideas like that of let's have a class where you only debuff. You know what I mean? And also the other part was filling the gap of it's something that can pair with life staff, because life staff in their mind they didn't have much to pair with, which was not true unless you're a pure healer, which even then I don't know about that one. Which then leads to my next point, which was they asked them what were the most surprising things that people have done this like surprised you with PvP. And one was funny, but one was, I'm going to go that one first because it's relevant to what I just said. He said, one of the combat designers was shocked and like by the people coming up with it and loved people playing around and making their own paladin builds, and then said, quote, might have been a little overpowered, but we made some changes there, end quote. Now, I don't remember if that's an exact quote or not, but it was something like that. And I don't know how they didn't realize that, man, paladins were so OP on launch, guys. It was nuts. So he didn't expect that to even be a thing, and then it was the main thing, and he was shocked. And the other guy said that he loved the creative uses of the ice gauntlet, like hiding in a bush and then jumping out of bushes with AoE from ice damage and just killing whole groups of people and stuff, like doing like, guerrilla warfare tactics. That was hysterical. And then another thing I want to say was these guys, this kind of, it low-key tilted me a little bit actually, but it was funny. Was these two guys, combat designers, they asked them what classes do they like to play. You know what their answers were? This is going to tilt so many of you guys. One guy said, yeah, I play hammer, great axe. What do the other guys say he plays? Sword and shield with great axe, and sometimes warhammer. Dude, I knew it! I was like, I knew it, dude! We have multiple combat designers who play warhammer, great axe, so they didn't want to see them nerfed because it was their weapon. I don't know if that's true or not. That's completely me just saying that, okay? That might not be true at all. But that's what it feels like when I heard that. I was like, what? Excuse me? What? You're kidding, right? Oh my god. That's why we had to deal with this crap. Anyway, I thought that'd be pretty funny. I wanted to share that with you guys. That was in that video. Now, as for which do they prefer, PvP or PvE, like the game designers, are they focused on one or are they focused on the other? Their answer was, as you might expect, they are focused on both of them. They plan on supporting both PvE and PvP. And their vision for the game is that they want PvP and PvE to complement each other and lean on each other. Also, as for the future, that the game is going to be guided by players and what they want out of the game. Basically, they have no problem, for the most part, they have no problem making the game any number of ways. It's just, what do you guys want the game to be? Which, I don't know how I feel about that, but that's generally how it was. And then for the future, for PvP, what's coming next? They didn't have a whole lot of answers, but they said more expeditions coming, more events. And for PvP, they said they want to support smaller scale PvP a little bit more in the future. And that was all they really gave for that. Now let's talk about patch notes, why they get omitted. So for patch notes, I'm going to have to try to do my best to answer this for them based on what I was seeing and hearing. My twist on what they were saying is, I think it's something like this, okay? They changed, because they said like, okay, when PTR comes out, there are like tens of thousands of changes. And I'm like, yeah, that's not true, but that gave me insight to how they're thinking. they're thinking, yeah, like we've changed tens of thousands of little tiny numbers and things in the code. Like, yeah, that's true, but you didn't change that many gameplay things. Now, there were some, arguments they had. It makes sense. Like, from a coding standpoint, there are times where you change one system in order to change 6 other systems, or you modify 12 numbers in 12 different gameplay systems to get one change in one system. So my opinion on this is that from the engineers and the people coding the game and that type of stuff, they are so focused on the codes and numbers and all the details that they don't do a good job of really remembering like how this is affecting things on a macro scale. So like they're rebalancing a weapon or something, let's say, and they're just looking at numbers, they're changing numbers, they're doing this stuff, and they're like, what are we working on? Well, we're changing the ice gauntlet. What does that mean for the game? I don't know. My job's just to do what I was told the number. Someone else told me what to do. It gets lost in the hierarchy of bureaucracy, you know what I mean? Like, the engineer just does the number changes. Someone else told him what to do, and then the other person doesn't realize the impact of this, this is a nerf, not a buff, and then somebody else has to get that information from somebody else, and so that's how things get lost, basically, with my guess, based on what they were saying. That seemed like the likely thing of things just get lost in the train of people and don't get documented correctly because of that. That seems like the most likely explanation, in my opinion, from what I heard from them. And they talked about, something that a lot of people complain about, but the answer for it is about what I expected and what I believe to be true as well, which is that, there are a lot of staff there. I don't know how many employees they have. Let's say 50, let's say 100, they have something like that, 100, let's say, employees doing stuff. And some of those employees, do make the 3D models. Some of the employees do art. Some of the employees just do the engineering, which are the ones that most of you will think of when thinking of changes. You're thinking of, what are the engineers doing? They're the ones rebalancing weapon numbers. They're the ones fixing, bugs in the game and stuff. And the thing that happens is they hear our feedback and they try, according to what they said, they literally use the phrase ROI, return on investment. They try to figure out what the best return on investment is for the time of their employees based on the feedback they get, to try to get the most effective stuff done at any given time. But with that being said, there are a lot of employees. So, like, say there's a bug, like, say when there was the invincibility exploit, which eventually led to the gold duplication exploit, but let's say the invincibility exploit. And it's a big deal. So they put on, like, senior level engineers to try to fix it. But you can't have, there's a saying in English of, too many cooks spoil the broth. And you can only have so many people working on the same thing at once. You can't have 100 people all working on the exact same code. It just doesn't make any sense. So they'll have, like, say, their 5 best people working on the serious problem. They still have 95 other employees or something. So they'll still have people working on the future content. They'll have some other, lower level engineer working on some smaller bug, like turkey's not running away or some just nonsense thing and that type of stuff. So that's how come they're able to still give other content and do other changes when there's a more pressing issue, is because they'll have, on the biggest issues, they'll have the highest level people working on it, but they can only have some people working on it once without it just making it go slower. And then everyone else is still going to be working on other things. As for how they decide what to do, it was basically like certain things take priority and is obvious. And then things further down the line, they, like I say, there's a bug, like I just said, turkeys don't run away. Okay, well, we'll put that off. But the longer they put off a small thing, the higher they'll let it go on the priority list. So if there's some nuisance thing, like that would not be a nuisance, but like if there's a nuisance, oh God, like the one where you go to craft something and it kicks you out of the menu the first time. And they'll ignore it because it's not the higher priority. But eventually it gets higher and higher on the priority until eventually they'll see it as a big priority because they just don't want an annoying bug to last for too long just because that's like a bad look and it's just annoying. So that's how they try to figure out what to do in what order. They also said something, I shouldn't even tell you guys this one, but I'm going to tell you guys this one. Okay, so first off, they were saying, if you know of an exploit, let's say the gold dupe exploit. They didn't say that, but that's what I'm saying. Say you know a gold dupe exploit. And they say you go to the forums, you don't want to tell people because you don't want people doing it. So they said to go to the forums and to, like, direct message one of the moderators in the forums and tell them about it in there. And that is the appropriate way to do it, to try to not have it go crazy and everyone be doing it. But there's something they said that was like, oh man, you guys should not have said that. And I shouldn't even repeat it, but I just have to. So they were saying, don't go tell everyone. Because if you like make a YouTube video about it or you do something so everyone starts doing it, then we have to deal with it sooner, is basically what they said. We have to put away, there could be something that's more important maybe, but because that's now being used by everyone, now that is more important, and they have to do it now. And I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm thinking, yeah, we kind of figured it worked that way, but it's just funny to hear that. And like, they're saying, don't make us fix the pressing thing, the most important thing first. Just let it exist on a low-key level so we can deal with it later when we have time for it. Don't tell everyone so it becomes a big issue, and then we have to do it first and delay other things. I'm just sitting there thinking, man, when we have issues like this, they need to delay other things. Some of these issues are so big that even if only a few people are using them and that cat hasn't gotten out of the bag yet, they need to drop what they're doing and fix it. Like when Gold Dupe happened, because they didn't drop what they were doing to fix it, because they just hoped it wouldn't get out, they had to shut down the trading post. And that happened, what, 2 or 3 times? And it's like, dude, come on, man. We shouldn't have to make a YouTube video to make you guys drop what you're doing to fix one of these pressing things. Like right now, the being able to glitch into the defender's fort in a war. That's pretty pressing. I would seriously, I've been down for them to delay the winter event by 2 days in order to go get that fixed first. That's how, to me at least, how pressing I believe that to be. And it's like, but basically, if you don't make YouTube videos, then we won't prioritize. I was like, dude, I shouldn't even tell you guys this, but I just have to, man. I just heard that and I was like, God, that's so silly, dude. What the heck? So that was something that was actually said in that video. But with that being said, I guess don't do that, though. I know I do that because I'm, I guess, just a bad person, and I made a video talking about how to sneak into the attacker's camp. Although also I was making it to warn you guys of how to prevent it by putting down powder kegs, but I did spread the word. I do apologize, but I got to do it, man. And I totally got to do it again in the future. Although I try not to spread things like gold dupes. Anything that's like a certain level, I'm like, okay. Or if I don't have a fix for it, I'll try not to spread it. Like, someone had told me about the gold dupe right before the economy shut down, like a few days back in November, whenever it was. And I did not make a video because I was like, I should not make a video on that. Nah, let's not do that. So I do have judgment on that, but yeah, I guess I'm guilty as charged on spreading the word. It was hilarious. They use the phrase YouTube video, and all I could think of was me, which is pretty funny. But anyway, that's the summary of that video. That video was 1 hour and 30 minutes. I highly recommend watching it if you're a big fan of New World. So I'm a big fan of New World, and I'm a content creator, so it was a win-win for me. I watched the entire thing. I enjoyed it. I had fun. It was a good thing. I hope they do more. I've been asking for them to do that since launch, and I'm glad they finally made one. And they said if you guys basically want more of that, and they can understand that you guys do like that and want more of that, they will do more. So please go to, in the description of this video, there's going to be the first paragraph and then a link to their video. Go to that video and leave a comment saying, I liked this, please make more of these, or something like that. Because unless you don't want to make more of those, which that's fine. But if you do want to make more of those, and you want me to make more summaries when they make videos like that, then definitely go do that, because I want more videos like that. It was amazing to get insight into what's going on. I wish they would do that with every single PTR cycle, do one of those videos. It would be awesome. So I do hope they do more in the future. It was very, very telling, very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it. And if you are a huge fan of New World and you have 1.5 hours to throw away or to listen in the background while you play, I would highly recommend it. It was a very, very good watch. Well, hopefully this summary video helped you out, saved you some time, gave you the big takeaways, and it's also easy to miss those takeaways when you're watching, because it's just, you get, so far in. It's like you go to school, and how many times have you been in a lecture and you missed something even though it was directly said to you, just because it's easy to miss something when you're sitting for an hour straight staring at someone talking to you, you know what I mean, and you're just listening. But I took notes. I don't think I missed anything major, at least nothing major in my mind, although lore and quests are not really important in my mind. So if there's something that to some of you, if any of you are huge fans of lore and quests, I may have missed something that was important to you just because they're not as big on the radar for me. So definitely check out that video. It has timestamps. It's pretty easy to navigate. So yeah, definitely highly recommend for me. I very much enjoyed it. Hope I was able to help you guys out, save you some time, summarize the thing, get my thoughts on it, and now you know what is coming to New World in the next few months, what the roadmap is, what to expect from this game in the near future, and on all the way through like March and beyond.